Hello and welcome, everybody, Paladins fans, champions alike, to the Dev Kit. You're quick, dude. You're all about your customized. We gotta get you like a lockdown.
They're just like, it can't change. But I was going up with the camera just to mess with the camera guy.
He thinks he's messing up. But guys, my name's Hi-Res Pretty Hair. This is Dry Bear. He is here to answer your questions.
That's what they tell me.
Yep. So we just had the patch drop. Lex is out, guys. He's out on the battlefield. Hopefully you've hit your top plays, your executes today. We're going to be looking for some big questions in chat. Hit us up on Twitter and as well as Twitch chat primarily. And make sure you add us at Hi-Res TV because that'll make it easier for us to see.
Yep. So I hope you guys are enjoying OB46. Lex is out there, and obviously the FN01 Helios Fernando is ready to go. So I think there's some cool things there. So just, if you guys have any questions, kind of hit us up and see if we can get some things rolling here. This appears to be the
first
chat.
question. Does this stream have a chance for SPL Bologna, Dry Bear?
You know, you'd have to ask Chris Larson about that. I am here for the Paladinios. Oh, actually, each one of these is Paladinios.
We got our Poppy Bomb, we got our Bomb King Crown, and our Fernando armor back there.
Fernando chest.
Let me hit up my Twitter questions real quick.
Yeah. This is, I think this would be a good opportunity to swap the chat that's on that screen maybe to Paladin's game.
Number one thoughts on cauterized percentages. That comes to us from Ashell, Simpe D on Twitter.
So it's an interesting balance, right? Because we had early stages of closed beta. We did have states where cauterize and Wrecker and Bulldozer didn't exist, right? And so it was kind of very, very difficult to not run a death ball.
What patch did the item system come in?
Oh,
I know
dear God.
Well, it switched from, it was burn cards right before items in terms of verbiage. But was it always that? Was it burn cards before? Were they basically the same thing?
We had tons of different iterations. We had the ones where like they would only last a round, or sometimes you'd have to spend more to strengthen them up or stuff like that, right? So we had different iterations. The one we have now was there a bit before open beta, so we kind of had that system already rolling in. But when we didn't have those cards, right, it made it difficult to not run a strong death ball comp, right? You'd run, one or two tanks, two healers, they get damage, you just clump together. And so we introduced those cards specifically so that you could shut that system down, right? So you could actually build things against heavy turtling, because turtling it should be a viable option, but it shouldn't be the only option. I think it's quite frustrating when it is the only option, because it's just two death balls running against each other. So having those in the game was very, very valuable. And actually what you'd see is during the closed beta, we actually did have situations where Wrecker and Cauterize were much weaker. And what would happen is it just wasn't enough to chink through it, right? So that like it still helps.
Sometimes now it feels like it's barely enough.
Right. And you kind of, that's right. I mean, you're still running, the fact that they're as high as they are, and you're still seeing a lot of, one or two front lines, one or two healers on every team, and they're still clumping together, means that bringing those percentages down would exacerbate that issue. So we are looking at other options, potentially looking at like lowering the amount of healing and shielding in the game along with lowering the amount that they counter. That obviously would be creating an entire different meta, and there'd be a lot of things we'd have to test through to make sure that works. So we're exploring those options, but we don't really have anything specifically there. So it is actually quite a specifically balanced system that's in there now. And if Wrecker and Cauterize come down, you actually remove the opportunity to flank. Flanks become very invalid, right? Because you can't get into the death ball to kill it.
Absolutely.
Damage dealers really can only be the ones that are safe, that can sit inside the bubble, because if they step out, they get picked off, and they can't put oppression onto the capture point. So we're looking at that, but it actually is very necessary now to make sure that there are a lot of options available. Cool.
So speaking of flanks, are we aiming for a Skye rework since we haven't seen her in competitive?
I think Skye is uniquely herself. I think there's always going to be a desire to make the characters that aren't currently in the meta exactly like what they should be to be in the meta, and I think that's actually a loss, right? There will be metas where Skye is really strong. We did see her picked once, I believe. We did see her picked in ESL and some of the community tournaments as well, and HSL. So there's definitely picks for Skye, but I think that really is what we're looking for, is ways to introduce different strategies or alternate strategies that she fits into, and then looking at her kit to see if there's ways to enhance what she's good at, rather than kind of homogenizing her to what other characters are good at, right? Let her be the single target, tank shredding, big burst character that can get in. And if she's having issues getting in or getting out, we'll look at ways to kind of build that. But I think the game is much healthier if we have a lot of options and characters that do different things, rather than trying to bring them all to do the same thing.
Cool, guys. And just so you all know, we are on high-res TV chat, so we can take questions from there as well.
We can do both.
We can do both. One more question here, also from Wesley DM1999 on Twitter. What are the aims of competitive rework? So taking a look at the rank system as a whole, I guess what will you want to target at first?
The first thing we're looking at is obviously matchmaking and how that plays into it. I think we're using the champion mastery system or the champion kind of climb system along with the account system in a way that allows you to kind of play your best characters or try out new characters that may be lower and kind of have that balanced out. So we're looking at that specifically so we can kind of clean it up and make it feel as awesome as it can be, but also looking at rewards and giving you reasons to play and also encouraging you to play different strategies, right? Because there's always going to be that situation where if the timing isn't right in the picking stage, you may not get the comp that you need, or being able to quickly identify that. So more improvements to the match lobby and the UI to make sure that that communication is very clean between you and your teammates, and then looking at the overall matchmaking and ways we can kind of better fit it to Paladins.
What are your thoughts on an undo button for the item store for when I misclick and purchase the wrong item?
We really want to do it. There's actually, there's a large amount of things that are on the list right now that we want to get in, and we're working as fast as we can. We have guys at the studio that are just working around the clock trying to get stuff in, and obviously the amount of champions we're releasing, the fact that we just went live in closed beta at Xbox 4, Xbox One, and PS4. I just put them into one console, just put them together in my head. So the fact that we have that available, if you guys haven't checked it out yet, you can kind of pick up the Founders Pack for $15 and play it on console.
That is a deal.
Pretty sweet.
I saw that.
Pretty sweet.
I actually saw that in game and just pushed it myself. I was like, you guys need to get on this.
It's good.
That's nuts.
Good.
That's a nuts deal. What is a drop hacker?
What is a drop hacker?
Yeah.
So that's commonly referred to as a way to either attack the game that's being played or kind of cause people in there to drop out. It's something that can easily be misconstrued for either a server issue or a personal client issue. Like if your game has an issue on your end on the machine and it kind of drops out, sometimes that is commonly misconceived as a drop hack. We are actually still, banning thousands of players every single month and catching tons of people that are kind of coming in that way, and we appreciate you guys also, for everyone out there that is sending out reports and stuff like that. We actually do have constant action on support when those tickets come in, those reports come in, so we thank you for that. We're actually looking at ways to kind of let you guys know when you were successfully action was taken there, but it's just one of those things that it's hard to really identify which one it was. A lot of times players will misidentify it, and as our already existing anti-hack is in there, we are catching a lot of it.
What are your thoughts on adding a delete loadout button for those of us with OCD?
Again, it's one of those things we really want to work on.
Just like a
quality of life low
stuff, priority thing.
We're trying to get a lot of quality of life stuff in every patch, and getting kind of more of those sweet dealios in there.
Okay. Mr. Rage Quit asks, any plans on making chests that reward gold again?
So as we talked about during Season 1 transition, right? We don't want to ever create something that you buy for gold that gives you gold, right? Because I think there's just a weird circular situation there where you're just like, you spend gold on it and you get gold back, so then technically the price was only the difference in the gold. Or if you get more and you're actually generating gold, right? We probably will introduce new chests that have, random amounts of gold or random amounts of essence that you'll be able to unlock through first win of the day or through quests or stuff like that, ways to kind of get it. But we'll never have a situation where you spend a currency to get a chest that gives you the same currency back.
Apple asks, will you buff Bomb King? He's weak compared to other damage heroes. And so we did, in fact, just buff Bomb King, but the buff, it's a little bit of technique. So can you break down exactly what goes into the changes to Bomb King's, his lag compensation, which is kind of the major complaint, right? A lot of Bomb King players would love to play him. Bitey specifically is a big Bomb King player. He loves Bomb King now, but before it was just a little bit too difficult to play on ping. Which is that's just a scenario for a lot of players. And so break down for us what goes into a change like that.
So lag compensation, which is on almost every character in the game now. Bomb King was one of the few ones that kind of was still left over. But lag compensation is basically a very elegant programmatic system that will look at what you are seeing on your side on the client when you're playing the game, and then compares that to what's happening on the server when the match is actually being played. And then it does a lot of really cool things to make sure that those are lined up, right? So when you throw one of your sticky bombs and you try to detonate it, you're kind of communicating with the server, with the match to say, hey, I'm doing this thing, and the server will verify that you're doing it and make sure that you guys are in sync. When it's not lag compensated, there are times where if you're on really high ping, those diverge, and sometimes what you're seeing isn't actually what's happening on the server or during the match. And so with the lag compensation coming in for Bomb King, that just makes it a lot more consistent every time you play him, whether you're on 1 ping or 200 ping or 500 ping. It means that what you're seeing, what's happening is very accurate to what's actually happening, and it just kind of makes it a lot more reliable.
Will there ever be options for different types of weapons for each character similar to those in TF2?
No. So that's kind of a comparison to TF2. Obviously, they had a very fixed number of characters, and then they varied the amount of playstyles of those characters through weapons.
I gotta play TF2. I've never played TF2.
It's great fun.
I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice.
You are. It's great fun. But the difference there for Paladins is we do that through champions, right? So if you're looking for a new weapon kind of feel, that's when a new champion comes in. So we'll start, as we get higher and higher in champion count, we'll start looking at different options, like maybe, a sort of assault rifle kind of like Victor, but different fire rate or different damage or different distance with different kit abilities that go along with it, right? So that's through the champions, we're creating different weapon engagements.
What do you feel about the split on different roles for champions? Specifically, when can we see a new support champion?
How about we do next? You want to do next? We can do next. Yeah. So we are when we're planning it out, we're always making sure.
Yeah. What is the plan out, right? Because you look at, I had somebody actually ask this to me yesterday. Why do people get? I think they said 5 damage champions as opposed to 1 tank, 1 support.
Oh, and the free champions.
And you're like free, like right when you log in. Kind of break that down for how that affects your planning for your release schedule.
Yeah, and when we look at the free champions, we obviously made sure that a lot of the recognizable first-person shooter tropes were there, right? Rocket launcher, machine gun, sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Make sure that's all available so that, when you're coming from a different first-person shooter, hopping to Paladins for the first time, or your friend kind of gets you into it, there's a lot of things that you can recognize and just get very comfortable into it and then start branching from there. We made sure there was one of each role in that slot, but a lot of the damage characters ended up having those very recognizable gameplay styles, right? I mean, it's going to be, though Maldamba is very unique and interesting and kind of brings something different than we see a lot in the tournaments. I think if you're coming over from a different modern FPS shooter and you get asked to kind of shoot enemies with a snake, it's a little bit different than if you saw an assault rifle or a sniper rifle, right? So just make sure that's familiar. But as we're planning out the new champions, we are looking at the role split and as they come along, right? We did have some imbalances coming from the closed beta. So obviously, previous to Inara and Torvald, we did actually have a deficit for frontline. And so we did solve that by getting, it was like frontline, flank, frontline, right? To get a good balance there to get them caught up. And now that we're largely pretty caught up, we have a good split across the roles. You'll start seeing more of a consistent, rolling through the roles. It won't always be like a revolver where it just goes every roll kind of back and forth. But largely we are looking at balancing out, making sure all the roles get similar amounts of characters. Now, one thing to mention as well, just based on the way the archetype system works, you actually don't need the same number of front lines as you do supports, right? Or, sorry, front lines and supports as you do damage and flank, right? Because largely you'll get 1 or 2 front lines, 1 or 2 supports in most cases, but you do fill with flank and damage. So largely you do need a couple more options for damage and flank to make sure that the overall team comp is well balanced. So you'll see a little bit more, probably almost always a little bit more in the damage role and the flank role than you will in frontline support. But we also want to make sure that the roles that are there, right? So within the frontline role, we have a lot of different options, right? With Inara and Torvald, they both brought something new to the frontline role that wasn't just the same that the other characters had.
Right.
And that, as we saw with Torvald specifically, that opened up a lot of different strategies that didn't exist before and just expanded the team compositions, which is always our goal.
Okay, this question comes from Adrian. An idea for Lex. I actually had... Yo, Adrian. So an idea for Lex. When you use the combat slide, is it like a technical limitation that you can't look 360 degrees, or was that just a design choice? Because you're kind of limited to like that,
It was a design choice, mostly just to spare his spine, so that he wasn't just feet forward, just helicoptering
Japanese
around.
horror movie.
Right? Yeah, just doing the right? Yeah, so we put that in there for feels and to make sure that you weren't kind of, and largely, when you're using the slide, most often using it to slide towards an enemy. You're not really sliding out of battle and trying to jump back, because the slide's so fast, right? You're not really trying to do a 180 Doritos no scope, right? You are trying to either slide into battle and shoot once, or reposition and then find your target.
So I'm seeing a lot of calls to actually buff Maeve now, and after we hit her pretty hard. What is that like when I feel like you get pulled in like a lot of different directions? You do it, and then all of a sudden they want you to go back on it, and you just kind of look like Ryan Reynolds in The Notebook, just like, what do you want?
Some people say I sound like him.
What's that like for you?
It's the first thing, right? The first thing that is always the goal is to make sure that every character in the game is fun. That it's fun to play both for the person playing the character, but also for the people that are playing against it, right? And that's actually, that second part is really important to us, and it's hopefully represented in everything that we have in Paladins, is that we are very, very aware and focus hard on making sure that when you're against something, when you're the victim of a different character, it feels as good as it can be, right? It feels like it's a challenge, like there's some kind of interaction there where, okay, I have to overcome this strategy, but there's something for me to do it, right? You look at Androx's reversal, it's not something that pops up instantly and reflects something instantly with no warning. It is something that has a sequence and then catches everything and then has that uninterruptible sequence that shoots it back. And then so there's a lot of gameplay between the person who's doing it and the person who's a victim of it to see who is the better player, not necessarily, oh, that thing was better, so he just wins, right? So we're always looking at the characters to make sure that makes sense, but it's also fun to play. So that's the core. Now, obviously, a lot of the feedback from Maeve is that she was really fun to play, but not so fun to play against. And that's where the second part comes in, where we wanted to make sure that that we solved that second part. And so by bringing down some of the kind of safety aspects of her kit, that removed a lot of the frustration of playing against her. Unfortunately, it did kind of tweak and move around what was fun about her. And as we look to kind of see her performance and if she's played in tournament and how it goes along, we'll look at ways to kind of raise her skill ceiling. And so it, again, brings that kind of aggressor-victim hybrid more in line, and that if Maeve is able to do a lot of really cool things that are very powerful, it requires a lot of skill and planning to do so that when you're a victim of it, you feel like that player bested you, not necessarily that it's frustrating to go against.
Wolf Soul asks about items in training range.
Okay.
There you go. Okay.
It's something that we really want to expand out on, is the shooting range. Again, it's a lot of things to do right now, and there's a lot of requests, and we have a lot of things we're excited about, and these things we really, really want to work on them, and then we're just kind of making sure we get through them all.
You'll probably feel the same about this question then. Can we make custom games more customizable, like editing cooldowns, hero changing, multiples of certain heroes, etc.?
Potentially. There are some technical limitations to that, because obviously, if you took 10 Yings and put them in a match, that turns into 30 Yings, right?
Yeah.
So there's some things there that could end up causing some performance on your machine when things happen that way. So we'll have to look at that. It's something that is on our list, but it's quite low, so I wouldn't expect that to be coming soon, but it's something we would be excited to work on.
Awesome. What do you guys think of using fan-made skins and making them official in-game skins? So I know we did this with Smite, right? We did this with Fallen Lord Kronos, I think was a community skin.
We did, and then we did it with Feaster Bunny, Bakasura, and a couple others, right? So obviously we're constantly looking through the community, and community send us a lot of concepts and ideas that the art team kind of looks at and gets inspiration from, or we just kind of do it, and then usually in those cases we'll end up giving that person the skin for free, and then kind of have some interaction there. So it's always cool to see all the fan art and skin concepts coming out.
Ray's Hall on Twitter asks, are you going to add rewards for players who reach high levels in competitive mode?
Yes, so that's kind of goes back to the competitive system, getting more rewards into it. What I'd like to do is have monthly rewards you can unlock by playing that month, and then obviously do season rewards and have resets regularly that do have a lot of things to look at. It's something that we're planning out right now, and hoping that we have the time to start working on that.
So Tony CSGO asks, will Paladins be $15 for PC after the closed beta?
No, Paladins is free to play.
Always and forever.
Always and forever.
The Green Silver asks, any question, the legendary card Demolition can destroy a Dome Shield, but not a Torvald Shield.
It should do both.
I think it does both. I'm pretty sure I used it in the PvE yesterday to
we
kill all the
specifically
Torvald
tested
shields.
that when we were making it, so it should do both. If it's not, it's a bug, but it's intended to do both.
So this kind of goes back to the Sky rework, but George Sabu asks, Will you give Sky a good escape or mobility option?
I tweeted about this a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about that internally, but we were looking at ways to get unique mobility into Sky. Again, as I stated earlier, we don't want to just kind of cookie cutter her. Copacabana. Terracotta Army. So we were looking at ways to kind of improve that, but not necessarily just make her just like a really flank, right? I think what she excels at is when she gets close to her target, she has some of the scariest DPS in the game. And then if her stealth works really well for her, she actually has some really interesting ways to flank that other characters can't, right? Because while characters like Maeve can flank quickly and get upwards onto walls and kind of around, you'll see her doing it, right? So there is actually some power there. Looking at the card, that I'm like Illuminate and how that stealth works and how close you have to get to her to soft reveal it and how much damage she can take while she's in it. All those things are things we can play with, but we're looking at ways to make sure she is very, very viable at what she does well, and then let her be that shine. Let her own inner self shine, basically.
Gotcha.
And then obviously ways to improve things like her ultimate, right? Potentially even being able to throw it instead of placing it down, because obviously a character with very low HP, with less mobility, it's harder for her to walk into the point and plant it down, especially if stealth's off cooldown or if it takes her out of stealth. So ways to kind of improve that. And then just looking at ways to make sure that she can kind of have mid and close range options. And then if she's going to be the all-in commit character, that she's very good at doing that, and she gets a reward for doing that.
Yeah. Just one more quick reminder, guys. We are looking at the Paladins game chat right now, as well as following along on Twitter. So another question about ranked. When the rework comes, will there be a full hard elo reset?
Most likely. It's either going to be a hard elo reset or a soft. We are looking at a hard instead. The difference there is a hard reset would put everyone back to 0, or just kind of the median, right, around 2,500, 1,500. But the soft would be basically just taking everyone and crunching them closer to the center. So it's not a full reset, so everyone is kind of relative to each other, still similar, but they're kind of, there is the outliers. So we are looking at that, and once we kind of have a ranked update, we'll likely do some form of reset.
Yeah. So I'm getting a lot of questions about fixing, like generic bugs, right? So one question, are we working on fixing the bug for Angel's Reversal? If you want to ask about a bug, try to be as specific as possible, because I can't just turn to dry burn back. Are you going to fix the bug?
I fixed it.
There you go. So try to be as specific, like what exactly went wrong for you with this bug, and I'll try to phrase it to him like so. But moving on, can we get Training Siege and have to have multiple difficulty levels?
We do have Training Siege.
Yeah, don't we?
And
we definitely do.
It does have, technically
it's got the dynamic
so as you play
bot,
in Training Siege, the bots will actually adjust their difficulty based on how well you're playing. So if you're playing really, really well, they'll get much stronger, and if you're not, they go back down. So yeah, I mean, we actually, sometimes we test the training just to see how it is internally, and if we have a stacked team, we'll be like, all right, this is easy, we'll wipe the bots, and then by the second round, they're just like murdering everyone because the difficulty goes so high.
My favorite is the Cassie bot. I'll never forget this. Like, it was across the world, like on Mars, on Fish Market, and the Cassie bot literally just left-click blast shot, disengage shots me in the air across the map, and I was just like, "Whoa, dude!"
I had one where like,
got a
I
whole
was
new respect
Eevee,
for
and
my
I blinked
bots.
up into the air, and there was already a Grover axe flying towards me, sniped me out, and I was like, "Oh my god, these bots!
They get pretty
They're
nuts.
so good."
They get pretty nuts.
Yeah.
I'm Jason asks, when will we see test maps come to life as normal maps? So talk a little bit, I guess, I got the whole process of how you select which test maps you want to bring to life.
So when you look at the feedback, obviously the feedback that you guys are giving on each test map is it's very valuable. And we look at how it performs overall, what the rating is on it, and also we are using the test maps as ways to experiment with new mechanics, right? Salt that just came out in Over 46 does have an elevator in it, so new things like that we want to see how it plays. We actually have a map coming out that may have an in-building hazard, not necessarily like a fall off a cliff hazard, so there's some cool things coming with that.
Sure does.
And also just looking what's in the game now, right? Because as we look, okay, here's the siege maps we have, here are the payload and survival maps we have. How do we get something that adds an interesting, unique twist on that that kind of makes it feel like it's different and kind of plays with that? We actually have already selected one of the test maps that you guys have played on before, and then we're already in the process of working through that. We have actually a couple other that we're looking at right now, but there is one that is on its way, and hopefully we can share that within the next few patches.
So I'm seeing actually about the Dark Crossing map. In the test queue. Did you guys see Because I know those had like those very like basic art and just kind of thematic feel to it. Did you guys see a better result with those maps that kind of had that very base level of thematic stuff?
We're trying to identify, how much of the feedback is coming from the pure gameplay, how much is it from what you see and how you feel what the theming is. So we are experimenting with some of those things to kind of really identify where it comes from. Sometimes, if something was all white, the feedback may be very negative because of the way it looks, not necessarily the way it plays. So we're trying to just hone in on where that feedback is, so we can kind of
even if it's like very, because a lot of those were just like the gray grid, right?
Yeah.
And so is that trying to make it as neutral as possible, just to try and get the gameplay feel for it?
We're trying to just make sure that players don't think it's a finished map, right? We're trying to be very
right, because with Dark Crossing, right, it's kind of cool already. Yeah. It's sort of like you kind of like where it's going,
but it's not arted, right? We just put blocky shapes and Legos everywhere, right?
But that might make you more inclined to like that map.
Right. And so we're testing that theory to see how much of the feedback that's coming back is from that. We also always want to make sure that it's clear that that is not a finished map. We're not intending for that to be a production map that you'd go and play with your friends, but it's something that you can test, right? So we want to make sure that's obvious when you're playing. We are kind of messing around with some tests to see where that feedback is coming from and how to really identify the best maps.
Billy Skrenner asks, are you ever thinking of letting us do 5-man pre-made in competitive?
Probably not in its own queue, or in the major queue, right? There are actually
a lot of team queue.
Yeah, potentially,
maybe.
Yeah. If we wanted to do it that way, we could do it that way. It's just you get a lot of interesting matchmaking issues where like if
queue in a
D69 just kind of like queues up as a team together.
Should be a good game.
The matchmaker will do its damnedest to try and make that work, but it's just that level of coordination.
You should just lose 0 elo for losing that game.
It's and it's. There's players that play together long enough that can communicate telepathically, right? They just kind of know how each other plays. So there's some cool things that come out of that. We're not looking to do a 5-player queue currently, but it is kind of on the horizon on something we want to solve and make sure it still feels good for everyone that plays competitive.
Cool. Daniel Goss asks, can we get something spoiled for OB47?
Something spoiled?
What do you have locked in?
Well,
you kind of already talked about
that. I have some cucumbers in my fridge that I haven't.
That are about to spoil.
Yeah, no, I was making.
Cucumbers
Yeah, they do.
I guess you could say that.
They're veggies. They're organic matter, right? they will spoil. So they, I got them last week and I ate most of them, but not like the last ones. That could spoil.
Jocko Schroeder asks, will you ever make it so you can't lose MMR if a teammate leaves?
We are looking at ways to identify matches if within the first few minutes someone leaves, but there's going to be a cutoff, right? At a certain point, if a teammate leaves at the very end, that's still a loss, right? If you played for 12 minutes and your teammate left, that's not a 0, right? You played enough to do it.
Yeah.
So it's just identifying those matches that are immediate kind of 4v5s and kind of cleaning that out.
Aspect MLG asks, any plans on nerfing Shaolin?
We are looking at Shaolin as well, largely in his planted combo where he can stun, go right into planet, get a bunch of burst damage off of that. I think largely there's enough counters there. He's not highly mobile, right? When you get close to him, you can see him, and his draw speed is incredibly slow. It's really just the lockdown of stun into quick planet that we're looking at to see if he needs some adjustments there.
Sure. Stavian Webb asks, will there be a Steam workshop for Paladins? I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
I do. It's not impossible.
What is that?
It's a way for users who are on Steam to generate assets, show those assets off.
Like an open source kind of thing?
Kind of. And they can make weapons or skins, those kind of things, and then have ways to kind of show that off to other fans of the game and have conversations around them, and then potentially even have those come to life.
Cool. MV Hupsel asks, there's a Founders Pack bug where you don't get the reward. Wait, where you get its rewards again. Will you ban those who spent one? Try to make your questions grammatically correct.
There is an issue today where Founders Pack owners are getting extra things from the Founders Pack that they got before. So we are looking into that, and then we'll have a response. I don't
suspect you would ban people for that just gotten extra stuff.
Yes,
it's like a
yes, we would not ban people for an issue that we created.
Okay. Alex Fontana has clarified, work on fixing the bug where Andro's reversal, where if you are walking or backpedaling, bullets go through it.
Yeah, it's the same issue we have with Fernando and Makoa, and largely that is a situation that only happens in situations of high ping.
Oh, really?
So it is just a, their you see the shield in a spot that the shield actually isn't if you're lagging a lot. And so that's just more down to lag compensation, and we're looking at options to make that feel a little bit better. And we'll hopefully have someone that it's a very complex problem, right? So it's not something that's easily solved. It's not something that has like you do it, and then usually it's a give and take of like, we'll give that up to get this. And so we have some of our smartest engineers working on that to find a solution for it, but it's a very, very, very difficult problem to solve.
Zoot asks, will we ever be able to see a update to the loading screen that tells us what type of game mode we are loading into when we multi-queue?
Yeah, that's a good one.
There you go. Hadouken asks, when are you going to fix the bug where the game registers a voice pack as a duplicate?
There was an issue on console where voice packs were kind of coming through that way. So we do have a fix for that one, and that should be coming shortly.
Steven Ramirez asks, can't get the Androxus exclusive outfit. Are those console linking things live yet, where you can get those two Androxus skins?
Not just yet. There are some kind of test ways to get it, but we will have more information coming on the full linking and how to get those.
Awesome.
Yep.
The Lord Barrick asks, are you guys looking for a new game mode? So I'd like to tack onto this question. What's you could do 100 fun new game modes, right? But where do you want to draw the line in terms of like splitting your player base away from like the main game mode, which is Siege and Paladins?
A lot of it is finding different purposes for each. I think on Siege, that's obviously our competitive mode. It's our mode that has the most amount of depth in it, and allows for more strategies and team compositions that lends itself better to be kind of an esport or ranked mode. We are looking at kind of survival, which was our way to have an interesting, more team deathmatch kind of style where it's just there for kills and carnage, small maps, quick matches, filling that role. So they obviously have different roles there. Payload, actually, there's some feedback that fills a very similar role to Siege, and so we're looking at ways that to either integrate those or kind of just look what to do with Payload. And there's other options where we do kind of want more team-based gameplay. Maybe we want to do like a 3v3 or like a 1v1 tournament, or maybe some random modes where you get random cards and random characters and have to see how much you can win. So there's a lot of really cool things that we're kind of looking to do and investigating, but we don't really have anything to share right now.
Petroscu George asks, are there any plans for announcer voice packs?
Yes.
You have one in Smite. Why don't we just like copy and paste it over?
It wasn't very good,
I guess it's different lines.
It needs to be a good one.
I liked it.
Okay, thank you.
I also like the Kepri one was my favorite.
Yeah.
Kepri was one of your gods.
He's very friendly.
So there you go.
We already have a so we can confirm announcer packs are coming. We already have a couple recorded. Some of them for characters you may recognize.
Okay, so it'll be champions.
We actually we have some cool ones to share. I don't know if I should spoil all of them, but there's some cool ones coming.
Give us one.
Give us one. We may have one that's kind of like a town crier. Like olden town crier.
Gotcha. I have a 19-inch 4 by 4. It's like the aspect ratio 4:3 monitor, and I get serious black bars above and under the resolution. Any plans to add different aspect ratios?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Flame FX asks, when more champs come into the game, would there be a chance to add a 6th teammate to spice the game up? Thinking emoji.
Probably no. I think the game is pretty specifically balanced around 5 versus 5.
Yep.
And also, again, there are, every character you add to the game is a chance that you could affect the performance of the game and see FPS changes. So we're kind of balancing around that. It's not out of the question. It's definitely not impossible, but we're not looking to do that in the short term.
Another question from Alex Fontana. Thanks for answering. And is there a chance on a Maldamba buff, like increased range / damage, etc.?
Maldamba is doing really well right now. We're actually seeing him pretty consistently in the top few picks for every tournament.
Absolutely.
Ranked play very high, and he's one of those characters that has kind of a very high skill ceiling. So, the more you practice him and the more you kind of delve into the deepness that is Maldamba, you can actually get more effectiveness out of that. And so right now we feel he's in a pretty good spot.
A lot of people asking about voice chat.
Yep. It's something that we're working on. As I mentioned before, we want to find the right solution for it, something that feels ubiquitous and very easy to use and kind of integrated with every match you play. And we're trying to find the very right solution for that. So that is something that we're working on.
Any chance for a Kinessa health buff?
Actually, Kinessa is doing a lot better than she was in Season 0, right?
That's
so
her
she
bag,
actually,
dude.
with the legendaries that come in, she's actually doing very, very well. We're actually seeing her more than just occasionally in tournaments now. Like, she is being picked up pretty effectively. And then in ranked play, she did see a bump. So actually right now, we do feel that Kinessa's in a pretty good spot. She's also one of those characters, too, that if she becomes, I think, if you look at from the health side, you do want the sniper to be punishable if a flank catches them, right? And so I think if we were to look at options for buffing on Kinessa, it would be more around her scope and how her ultimate works and how her movement works, but not necessarily her survivability, because again, if Kinessa wasn't using her pressure mines properly to give early warning signs when there's a flanker coming and paying attention to map awareness, she should be punished if she gets caught.
Daniel Goose asks, will we ever get a support that doesn't heal but supports the team with buffs and other things of that nature?
It's possible that we are working on a design for that.
There you go. Anything's possible. Izzy Rez asks, is it intended for Victor's ult to not be absorbed by Barrick's ult and does full damage to anyone inside of it?
Huh?
So, I mean, yes, Victor ult does circumvent. It goes around shields.
Oh, you said, I think you said Barrick twice.
Did I?
Yeah, so
Victor's
Barrick's ult absorbed
so not
by
be
Barrick
absorbed
ult.
by Barrick ult.
And my brain. Maybe
If
I
two
just heard
Barracks
Barrick. I don't know.
ult and they form a Venn diagram, whose shield
Who's in the
wins.
middle? Yeah, so Victor's ultimate will go through shields and then be sourced basically when you target someone, an airstrike is called right on where that person is and travels through shields and rooftops and buildings. They're very special bunker buster bombs. Bunker buster bomb kings.
Cool. So we already answered that about a potential 5-man ranked queue.
Potentially.
Not
right now. At some point in the future.
Can we give AJ asks, can we give EV 4K health?
We can put EV in 4K resolution.
4K ice block.
Yeah. Like really, really pristine, clear ice.
That's her advantage, right?
Can't even tell it there.
Her ice blocks in 4K, and everyone gets mad FPS drops when she ice blocks.
That's right.
Give her
Or
a
they're
way
just,
out.
it's so resplendent they have to stare at it and they get stopped in their tracks.
To mesmerize.
It is.
Oblivious Frog asks, can we have visual feedback for temporary buffs like increased move speeds after charge?
Yes. Again, that's one of those things that really want to. It's a quality of life increase. We want to kind of show when cards go on cooldown or when you get temporary buffs and durations. So we are planning out at some point this year to do a full overhaul of that system to make sure everything is visually represented during a match. But that is a bigger system that we do need to kind of spend some time making sure it looks good.
How much wood would a Grover chuck if a Grover chuck could chuck wood?
Grover chuck?
Grover could chuck wood.
Grover could chuck wood. Well, Grover is wood.
So in units of Grovers.
In units of Grovers?
How much could he chuck?
Probably about 3.5 Grovers.
Grover chucks.
He does chuck. But then again, he has a tree that has an axe that cuts down trees. So is it really Grover's wood or is it somebody else's wood?
So you're telling me Grover's handling other people's wood?
Who else is going to do it? Who would you trust with that? I trust Grover.
No
with
one
my
better
wood.
than Wood himself. Are we going to... Borby asks, are we going to see more animations for play of the matches for champions?
Yep. We are working on a new presentation for top play. Hopefully we can share that at some point. So we are working on ways to kind of show off that and then maybe ways to kind of make the top plays feel a little bit more special and customized.
I Hate Toasters asks, can you guys tap yourselves on the shoulder? You do good work. He does good work.
He said ourselves, so I guess each other.
Pat yourself on the back.
That's right.
Would it be possible to get a location indicator for Grok's totem similar to Sky's ult?
For
like that
Grok or
yellow
for his teammate? Because
I guess for his team.
I'm talking about for enemies, because he should have one where there's a plus sign over it, so you can see that that's like the healing area. There is,
and there's the green circle on the ground.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things in the game that we could do that for. We've kind of intentionally not done it for some things because it just becomes visual clutter, right? Because when you have 10 directional indicators, it's hard to pick out which one's the most important,
which one's
right?
which.
It's like, you have a bunch of Grok totems and then there's like a sky bomb in there. And the Grok totem goes over the sky bomb, you're like, I'm safe, not, right? So like, it's just making sure that the information that's being shown to you is the most important, and there isn't competing for your attention especially when you're in danger, right?
Absolutely. FlameFX asks, how many champs do you think you would want in the game before you add bans to ranked?
1 million.
1 million champions.
So I actually I pulled this out a couple weeks ago, and then you guys talked to some of the esports teams and stuff like that of what a good number is. The feedback that we got back was that the number we have now is a little too small for bands.
Yeah.
So we're looking at probably closer to 30 before we start seeing that. But really, it's just going to be by need, right? When it becomes the point that the picking is deep enough where one ban per team can make a huge difference, but doesn't lock people out from necessary picks, then that's when we'll kind of pivot on that. We're ready to do it. It's just something that we're waiting on the competitive scene to feel like they absolutely need it, or internally we get to the point where like it's a lot of champions and we just need it to kind of balance things out.
Gislin asks, any chance we could get a rework or a different PvE mode to make it more like a wave-based horde style game mode?
Yeah, so we want to do more expansions to PvE, adventures-based, where you have different things to pick from, and then wave-based, survival-based, those kind of things. We are actually, because we're releasing new encounters every single week, we're stacking up a pile of encounters that we're kind of tweaking after to give feedback and making them better and polishing them, which could eventually turn into a whole adventure set with rewards and special PvE and cards, stuff like that, where we can have things to get in there or skins. And so we are working towards that, but really just making sure that we're getting the feedback early.
Michael Prokowski asks, basically, what's your stance on new champions being available and ranked immediately as opposed to a week or two to allow players to adjust?
I think when we start getting bans in the game, that's when we'll probably start excluding
just
the new champions.
Auto ban.
Yeah, but I think those two things go hand in hand, right? Because the core concept that's being discussed between those two issues is, are there enough champions to pick in ranked that it feels balanced? And then once you have that number, then it's like, okay, well, we don't need that new champion anymore because we have enough.
Sure.
So we can wait a week or two to make sure that works. And the same thing with bans. Like we can get rid of 2 champions every match and still feel okay. So as the champion number grows and grows and grows, which again, a reminder, all of these things are very related to the number of champions we have in the game, which is why we're pushing so hard this year to get that champion count up. So there's enough picks in the game and enough expansion in each role so everything can balance out, so that we can put bans in ranked, we can ban new champions, and then there's ways to kind of play within each role, and team comps become more varied, or maybe team comps become available that characters like Skye can come into the meta, right, without having to drastically rework her, because there's other characters that work well with her.
Another question from Alex Fontana. Are there any Maldamba skins being worked on?
Yep.
Hard yes.
There's a very fancy one.
Fancy Damba.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, like, so we have Grover, we have God of War, Ares for Nino. What are your thoughts on Smite kind of crossover and IP, coming into Paladins?
It's not impossible. Obviously, we've proven that. It just comes down to timing and finding the right fit, right? I mean, we even have TF2 Barrack, right, in the game too. So the crossovers are always fun to do. Just need to make sure that it works.
Tyler asks, any chance for an option to auto skip kill cams / top plays?
Potentially. Yeah.
I kind of like you got rocked, like now you have to watch yourself get rocked.
The auto skip is an interesting setting. We'll probably end up putting that in. That's a good one. And then the top play, well, like I said, when we do some improvements to the top play.
You can skip kill cam right now, can you not?
Yeah. He's talking about auto skip, where it would always skip it until you turn the setting back on, which is an option we can look at. Oh, shoot. I took a mental note.
Mental note. All right, guys. Well, we've been up here at this for about 45 minutes now, so I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. Any further questions, just feel free to tweet us throughout the day. We'll be in the mood to take more questions. Dry Bear, thank you once again for joining us.
I went for the right hand. We're just like, yeah.
Hey,
here it is.
Guys, thanks so much. We hope you enjoy that, and go play the new patch. It's out on live right now. Founders Pack still on discount across the board. Get inside of the closed beta for Xbox and PS4. My name's been Pretty Hair. This is Dry Bear. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.